Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Confrontier and Building Your Mentality, in which I try to use my insights and experiences in life to hopefully get you further in yours. I hope you'll enjoy watching and listening again. In this episode, we'll be having a look at one of my hobby horses, and which is dealing with nature and your surroundings. Now, I think that in order to be a good or even great person, it is important that you also realize you have a responsibility for your surroundings. Now, two caveats here before I move on, two disclaimers, it's better to say. First, I am taking science as proven, so there's no need and no room here for so-called skepticism, which is really denialism. The science is pretty clear about the state our environment is in, and also about the impact that human activities have. If you want to dispute that, this is not the place. I'm not delving into it. It is a given. And if you feel uncomfortable about that, well, that is no reason not to accept it. And you should feel uncomfortable because it is, as has been said before, a very inconvenient truth. The second disclaimer I want to mention is that I am not approaching this subject from the view of a vegan or another person that you might call extremist, whether deserved or not. I do not think it is necessary or even possible to be holy in this regard. You cannot be a saint. It is not possible to live in perfect harmony with nature and your surroundings. However, you do need to strive to be as good as you can within reasonable bounds. Now, the main thing I want to discuss here is the fact that dealing with your surroundings is a matter of responsibility, and that starts with actually being open to your surroundings, which means that you should be aware as much as you can of other organisms that are living in your surroundings. So possibly, hopefully, likely, you'll have animals, most obviously birds, but also other ones probably living in your surroundings. I do not mean pets here, I just mean wild animals, animals that actually do not receive or usually not receive care from people, but that need to make it on their own. So beyond that, most obviously, we've also got plants and all sorts of microorganisms, of course, as well as fungi and you name it. Well, you can't, of course, be a saint, as I said, to all of these, and it is not possible not to inconvenience them at all. However, you can greatly lessen the impact you have on them, at least you personally. This is something that I think ties in to the very concept I've explored before, namely that you should be aware of people as well as, in this case, other organisms around you, and that you should try to be responsible towards them, and that it's important not to make yourself too big. I'd even say that in order to be greater, you need to make yourself smaller, in the sense that your own needs, your own perceived needs, and your feelings should not be the end all and be all of how you live your life. Be aware of the fact that when you walk around the street, when you are in your garden, when you play music, when you shout loudly, when you talk in general, and so on, you are inflicting at least some sort of disturbance or at least some effect on all those creatures around you. Now, many of those things cannot be avoided. I'm not saying you should let your house be overrun by all sorts of creatures like silverfish or whatever, but I am saying that you should be aware of them. And outside your own home, at least, you should realize that there are organisms there that are dependent on that environment. You are also dependent on it up to a certain extent, but they rely on it. And if they cannot access their food or don't have any food at all, or are constantly disturbed by lights, sounds, and other things, you are effectively working towards their death. And perhaps you do not find that a problem, but if you don't, I think you really need to rethink your life choices, as they say. Putting it rather poetically, perhaps, and putting it grandly, it's important that you realize that with power comes responsibility. Now, you as a person might not feel very powerful at all, but you are a very powerful actor on your surroundings. So, for, say, birds living in your area, you are a powerful actor that causes disturbance or can choose not to cause it, but can also provide shelter, food, and so on. Now, there are many tips about how to make your garden more animal friendly. I will not go into that here because our time is limited. But know that those possibilities are there. And I personally feel that if you want to be a good person and if you want to be an admirable, responsible person, this is one aspect that you should not forget. You are probably aware of the saying nature versus nurture and that old and probably inaccurate dichotomy between those two. Well, I like to mimetically mutate that saying into nature needs nurture, in the sense that in an urban or at least a human-dominated setting, which is probably where you'll be living in, nature really needs some nurture, and that nurture can be very hands-off in the sense of just leaving things alone, but it also means that there should be space anyway, so that nature can just take the form of giving room, giving some space to whatever is natural in your surroundings. This is fraught with difficulty, and there are many complexities here regarding exotics and so on. Not delving into that here, just saying that it should be a guiding principle. At least I think it should be for any person who is halfway responsible and wants to be a good person. Realize also that you're not operating in a vacuum, as I've also said and pointed out before. You are a person that has impact on their surroundings, not just other people, but other organisms as well. And whatever you do impacts things. So if you use poison, you are impacting your environment. If you insist on making lots of noise and causing other sorts of disturbance, you are influencing your environment negatively. Same goes if you pollute to high heaven, which literally you might be doing. Something that you might not be aware of, but which I think you should be, is the so-called shifting baseline. The idea and the theory of shifting baseline is that we consider our present-day situation normal, and that we do not realize how off that reality might be compared to what it was, or what it should have been, if we want to be rather philosophical about that. So, for example, we know, scientifically proven, that biomass in the world has decreased dramatically, at least the wild biomass. So for people in, say, the 1970s or before, there was a lot more natural biomass around, so a lot more wild animals, plants, and so on. That biomass is mostly or entirely still here, perhaps there is even more, but that biomass now takes more the form of humans, but also I mentioned cattle, but also actually livestock in general, as well as pets, that have all gone to replace natural biomass. Oh, and I shouldn't forget crops here either, of course. You, especially if you're a young person, will probably consider your natural surroundings insofar as you are aware of them, which you might not be. If not, please use your eyes and ears to find out more and to appreciate your surroundings more. You might consider them normal because it's all you're used to, but you can be pretty certain of this. They're most likely not normal. What would have been normal is a situation where humans would have been much, much rarer, and their pets, and especially their livestock too, and wild animals as well as wild organisms in general would have been far, far, far more common. That's how things should have been, really, if we want to go that far and delve into the should, coulds, woulds, and so on. Realize that, and nature is definitely in trouble. There's no disputing it, despite the fact that so many want to. So you can, and in fact should help, because you should also realize that you're being deprived of a healthy environment. You're also being deprived of a healthy ecosystem around you. You're being deprived of, and this is turning very serious, you're being deprived of a positive future you can be optimistic about. Because in the end, that's what it boils down to. Alas, there are lots and lots and lots of people who feel driven by politicians, and those politicians most likely being driven by corporate interest and corporate profits, that the environment and being concerned about animals, plants, organisms in general, as well as your surroundings, is something of a leftist, or if you're American, liberal hobby, and something that is frivolous, something that is unimportant, something that takes money away from people who want to live their lives and want to enjoy life, and so on. Well, that is a very effective, but it's also a very wrong and very amoral framing of the situation. Because fact is, we are consuming too much, and there's a lot you can do about that. So try to minimize your meat intake. Don't use planes if you can avoid it, and so on. You know the drill. But basically, the environmental issues are being framed as some sort of nagging, or some sort of annoying noise, really. That, of course, is not in your personal interest, nor is it in the personal interest of anyone, because you can do without that vacation, you can do without that extra slice of chicken, or that extra slice of beef on your plate, but you can't do without breathable air. You can't do without pollination. You can't do without groundwater, and so on. You can't. Yet these things are the ones that are put in jeopardy by framing environmental issues as somehow unimportant or overblown. You are risking your future in that way, and people who are in power, like politicians, but perhaps especially the CEOs of the most polluting and most important, but in terms of impact, companies around the world, are putting your life as well as that of everything and everyone else, including their own lives, in jeopardy, just for short-term profit. And of course, if they would let that message be honestly broadcast by media, by politicians, and would actually let people act on them, those corporations, and especially the psychopaths running them, I'm just using the word here, would of course see their income decrease dramatically, and that is what they want to avoid. So realize that when you are parroting all sorts of nonsense about environmental issues being unimportant, or about being easily solvable by innovation, meaning a magical wand being waved by a wizard, because there's not much difference really between wishing for a wizard to solve your problems and hoping for some miracle technology to be discovered. When you're doing that, you are working on your own demise, really. And if you think that's not that important, or that it will be after you already expire for whatever other reason, you are also impacting that of your younger relatives. Think of any younger relative you have, especially the very young ones, and realize that their world is being destroyed for the benefit of a little more profit, or actually a lot of profit, for people who already have enough and who have already done enough damage and who are still being celebrated by way too many people for their ability to turn the planet into, well, a resource for them that they have no need of. Every politician and every corporate businessman or whatever who tells these lies, well, they're all laughing at you when you repeat those lies, and when you add to the confusion, and when you add to the smokescreen they're raising. It's the same smokescreen we see whenever there are great corporate profits at risk. Just take a look at the tobacco industry and things like that. But not moving into that now here. Realize that you are a puppet for people who want you to be ignorant, and who want you not to realize that they're destroying your world. You might think of the American phrase, doing something to trigger the lips, like, for example, eating far too much meat, or driving your car extra pollutingly, or going on vacations and so on, just to spite people who think you should do that less. Well, you might be triggering the lips, but you're also shooting your own descendants in the face, really. Rant over. As you can see, this is something that concerns me a lot, and I think that it might actually be the most important message I have for you. If you want to be a good, responsible person, you need to realize that you need your surroundings. That's the egotistical version, but also that you will become a better, though perhaps not a happier person, from knowing what's at stake, and also from adding to the quality of your own surroundings by letting the natural world have a little more space, or even helping it. That is my main message for today, and my first message for 2024. Now, as I said before in my holiday wishes video, I wish you the happiest possible 2024, and I also wish you to become a better person. And once again, I hope my insights and my advice can help you here. Once again, if you feel like sharing this video, please do, and if you want to subscribe, go ahead. Bye.